Hello, ladies. Welcome to Senior Savvy, the place where we learn, protect our finances, and stay sharp in a world that's getting more complicated by the day. Today, I want to start with a very simple question, one that could completely change the way you handle your money. Are you paying certain bills every month? Not because you truly owe them, but because you're afraid of what might happen if you don't. I ask because not long ago, a lawyer told me something that made my jaw drop. Millions of older women in America are quietly paying off bills they legally don't owe, simply because no one ever told them they don't have to. That statement shook me, so I started digging. And what I found, I believe you need to hear too. In this video, we're going to walk through 7 types of bills and charges that seniors are often tricked or pressured into paying, without ever questioning them. We'll talk about fake or exaggerated debt collection calls, medical bills that land on a widow's lap, even grown children using their mother's name to take out loans, and leaving her with the damage. And that's not all. Have you ever signed nursing home paperwork without reading the fine print? Or noticed strange little charges quietly draining your bank account month after month? Stick with me, because just minutes from now, I'll walk you through 5 legal rights that every senior over 60 should know, but that almost no one is talking about. We may not be young anymore, but we are still wise, and we deserve not to be fooled. Part 1. The Trap of Guilt and Generational Conditioning. Let's talk about something that's been used to quietly rob millions of older women of their financial peace, and that's guilt. Not guilt from others, but guilt from within. You see, many of us were raised in a time when being responsible was a badge of honor. You borrowed, you paid it back. You broke it, you fixed it. A bill came in the mail, you settled it, no questions asked. We didn't argue. We didn't complain. We were taught that paying what you owe is a moral duty. But here's the dangerous part. What happens when someone uses that morality against you? Let me tell you about Evelyn, a 72-year-old woman from Iowa. She's a retired nurse, raised 3 kids on her own, never missed a single mortgage payment in her life. A few months ago, she got a letter in the mail. It looked official, stamped, urgent, claimed she owed $317 for an old internet service from 10 years ago. One she says she never even signed up for, but she paid it, without asking questions. Why? Because deep down, that old voice in her head said, maybe it's your fault, maybe you forgot, maybe it's better to just pay and not cause a fuss. That's not logic talking. That's conditioning. And that's exactly what these companies, these debt buyers and scammers, are counting on. We weren't raised with pop-ups and predatory billing practices. We didn't grow up in a world of 20-page fine print contracts and hidden automatic renewals. We were taught to respect authority, even when authority didn't respect us. So today, when a stern voice on the phone says, "You owe money," or when a threatening letter shows up in the mailbox, too many of us go straight to fear, shame, doubt. We don't want to be seen as irresponsible. We don't want to bother our kids. We don't want to be the cause of embarrassment. But here's the truth. Just because you're a decent person doesn't mean the world is playing fair. Let me say this loud and clear. Being responsible does not mean being exploited. Being kind does not mean being naive. Being respectful does not mean being silent. And just because a bill lands in your mailbox doesn't mean it's legitimate. You do not owe money just because someone says you do. That's not how the law works. That's not how justice works. I still remember what my mother told me growing up. Don't make trouble. Be a good woman. Always pay what you owe. But she lived in a different time. Back then, people looked you in the eye and meant what they said. Now there are companies that buy old debts for pennies and send thousands of letters hoping just a few of us will panic and pay. It's a system, a very profitable one. And it thrives on our silence, our guilt, and our fear of doing the wrong thing. This piece of paper with final notice in red letters is not a verdict. It's not proof. It's just a piece of paper, and anyone with a printer can send one. Unless your name is on a legal contract, unless they can show you clear written evidence, you owe them nothing. And if you're not sure, that's what legal aid, consumer protection offices, and senior advocacy groups are there for. Many offer free help. All you have to do is ask. Ladies, it's time we start unlearning the lies we were taught to follow without question. Paying a bill doesn't make you noble, not if it was never your responsibility. Being polite doesn't protect you, not from scammers trained to sound like professionals. And letting guilt control your wallet is not what our generation fought for. We have raised families, worked double shifts, saved every penny. We are not weak. We are not fragile. We are wise and we are waking up. So before you open your checkbook next time, I want you to pause. Ask, do I really owe this? Or am I just afraid not to pay it? Because fear is expensive, and you've already paid enough. Part 2. The Lies Debt Collectors Tell. In the last section, we talked about how guilt and conditioning are used against us to make us pay bills we don't owe. But there's another weapon that's just as dangerous. Fear. And it's delivered by strangers with scripts. I'm talking about debt collectors. Have you ever picked up the phone and heard a voice that made you feel like a child again? Like you were in trouble? Like you had done something wrong? That's not an accident. Debt collectors are trained, yes, trained, to use tone, pressure, and urgency to make you pay money, even when you don't owe a single dime. Let me tell you about Darlene, a 74-year-old widow from Ohio. One evening, she got a call from a number she didn't recognize. A man's voice said, "Mrs. Harper, this is an attempt to collect a debt. If you do not cooperate, we may proceed with legal action." Darlene froze. The man said she owed $412 on an old store credit card her late husband opened in 2006. She'd never used that card, never signed for it. But the way the man spoke, fast, firm, legal-sounding, she felt small. She felt confused. She felt scared. He told her she had 48 hours to pay or they'd escalate the case. So she paid. Not because she knew she had to, but because he sounded like he had the power to ruin her life. Here's what they didn't tell her. Legally, she didn't owe that money. It wasn't in her name. There was no proof she signed anything. And the debt was so old it was likely past the statute of limitations, which means they couldn't sue her even if they wanted to. But they didn't need to take her to court. They already got what they wanted, her fear. And her money. Let's be crystal clear. If you didn't sign for the debt, you don't owe the debt. If they can't show you written proof, you don't pay. If the debt is expired by law, you don't have to touch it. But will they tell you that? Never. Instead, they use legal-sounding language, final notice, escalation, pre-litigation status, all designed to sound scary. But legally, most of it means nothing. You see, this isn't just about money. This is about control. These companies target older women because they believe we won't fight back. They think we're easy. They think we're too polite, too unsure, too scared to challenge them. Well, let me tell you something. We've faced harder things than a voice on the phone. We've lost partners, raised families, battled illness, worked through grief. We are not weak. We are not helpless. And once you know your rights, they lose their power. There was another woman I spoke to, Linda from Arizona. She received a letter claiming she owed $1,700 from a payday loan her niece took out in her name, without permission. The letter had a fake court seal and claimed legal action had already begun. Linda almost took out a loan to cover the debt, until her granddaughter helped her contact the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau. Turns out, the company didn't even exist in any government database. It was a phantom debt scam. She didn't owe a thing. So what should you do when a debt collector calls? Stay calm. Don't admit anything. Don't argue. Just listen. Ask for everything in writing. By law, they must send proof of the debt. If they threaten you or try to pressure you, hang up. Call your local legal aid office or state attorney general's office. And remember, if it's not in your name, if it's not in writing, you do not pay. Ladies, this world isn't the same as the one we grew up in. Back then, you could trust a man in a tie. Back then, a phone call meant someone cared. Now, it might be a trap. But now that you know the game, you can beat it. Don't let strangers with scripts decide your future. Don't let fear steal your money. And don't let anyone, not a collector, not a company, not even a voice on the phone, make you feel like you're powerless. Because you're not. Part 3: Medical Bills and the Widow's Burden. There's a certain pain that only some of us understand. It's the pain that comes after the funeral, after the condolences have stopped, after the casseroles and the sympathy cards are gone. It's the moment you open your mailbox and find a bill in your name, for care you didn't receive, for a life that's no longer here. And you ask yourself, how can I possibly owe this? Let's talk about medical bills and what I call the widow's burden. Hospitals, clinics, and collection agencies are banking on your grief. They know that when you're mourning, you're vulnerable. You're not thinking about contracts or legal obligations. You're thinking about honoring someone you loved. And that's when they strike. Let me tell you about Carolyn. She lives in Des Moines, Iowa, and lost her husband, Richard, to cancer last year. 3 weeks after his funeral, she received a bill from the hospital, $64,217. It was addressed to her, not to Richard. She panicked. She thought, we were married. Of course I'm responsible. She was ready to cash out part of her 401k just to avoid trouble. But before she did, her son convinced her to call Iowa legal aid. And you know what they told her? Ma'am, unless you signed a financial agreement, you are not legally responsible for this debt. Carolyn never signed anything. The bill was based purely on the fact that she was Richard's wife. But under Iowa law and in most states, being a spouse doesn't automatically mean you inherit medical debt. You hear that? Just because you were married doesn't mean you owe their medical bills. Unless your name is on a financial responsibility form, or you live in a state with specific spousal liability laws, they can't make you pay. And yet, they send those bills anyway, because most widows don't question it. We think it's the right thing to do. But let me ask you this. Is it right to take your retirement, your home equity, your peace of mind, and throw it into a system that never even cared to explain your rights? Because that's what they're counting on. They don't need the law on their side. They just need your silence. There's another woman I know, Linda from North Carolina. Her husband passed after years of dialysis treatments. When she got a $38,000 bill, she started selling her late husband's tools and her own jewelry. All because the hospital rep told her, as the surviving spouse, it's your responsibility. No paperwork, no contract, just a lie dressed in authority. It wasn't until she called a senior legal hotline that she learned the truth. The debt wasn't enforceable. But by then, she had already sold $4,000 worth of personal belongings. Let me say this as clearly as I can. Grief does not make you guilty. Love does not equal liability. And silence is not the same as responsibility. Here's what you need to do if you get a medical bill after a loved one's passing. Do not pay anything right away. Not $1. Ask for a copy of the financial agreement they claim gives them authority to bill you. Contact legal aid, AARP's legal hotline, or your state attorney general's office. Check if your state follows doctrine of necessaries laws. Only some do. Keep records. Take notes. Don't let your emotions be used against you. You've already walked through fire. You've said goodbye to someone you loved. You've survived one of life's hardest storms. You don't need to lose your home, your savings, or your peace because of a bill that isn't even yours. You deserve to grieve in peace. You deserve clarity. And above all, you deserve to be treated with truth, not tactics. Ladies, don't let sorrow open the door to scams. Question everything. Challenge everything. Demand proof. Because you are not just a widow. You are a survivor. And your strength, not your signature, is what defines you. Part 4. Adult children's debts and friendly lies. There's a pain worse than losing money. It's the pain of realizing someone you love used your love to hurt you. Let's talk about one of the most heartbreaking traps seniors fall into: paying the debts of our adult children. Let me be blunt. You are not legally responsible for your grown child's credit card debt, car loan, business loan, medical bills, student loans, period. Unless your name is on the contract, you don't owe a dime. But that's not what your heart tells you, is it? I remember speaking with Donna, a retired schoolteacher in Tucson, Arizona. Her son, Mark, lost his job during the pandemic. He called her one night crying, "Mom, please, they're gonna take the car. I just need a cosigner. I promise I'll make the payments." Donna didn't hesitate. She signed. Mark meant well, but he missed 2 payments. And just like that, the loan company came after Donna. Her credit dropped 120 points. Her phone rang off the hook. She was 68 years old and facing legal threats over a truck she never drove. This is not about being a bad parent. This is about protecting your financial future from emotional manipulation. Because sometimes the guilt comes not from banks but from the people we raised. In Brooklyn, New York, there's a woman named Teresa. Her daughter was opening a boutique. She asked her mother to take out a small business credit card in her name. "Just for inventory, Mom. I'll pay you back next month. Promise." That was 2 years ago. The business failed. The card maxed out. Now Teresa, 72 years old, living on Social Security, is making minimum payments on $18,000 of debt. She told me with tears in her eyes, "I wanted to help my daughter's dream. I didn't know I was signing away my peace of mind." Let me say this again. You don't owe anyone your stability, not even your children. You spent decades putting food on the table, staying up late when they were sick, working 2 jobs so they could go to school. You raised them. You gave your all. Now it's time for them to stand on their own, without dragging you into their mess. Love is not writing a check. Love is teaching them boundaries. Love is saying, "No, I will not sacrifice my retirement to bail you out." And listen, they might get angry. They might say you're selfish. But financial abuse often wears the face of a desperate child. You are not selfish. You are smart. I had to do this myself. My own nephew once asked me to co-sign a personal loan. He said, "It's just paperwork, Auntie. I'll handle it." I looked him in the eye and said, "I love you, but I will not be held responsible for your decisions." He didn't speak to me for a while, but 2 years later he came back and said, "Thank you for not letting me drag you down. I needed to learn. If you've already signed something, here's what you need to do. Review the documents carefully. Are you listed as a cosigner, guarantor, or joint applicant? Call a legal aid office in your state. They'll tell you exactly what your obligations are and what they're not. Freeze your credit to prevent anyone from using your name without permission. Have clear conversations with your children. Set boundaries. Put it in writing if needed." Part 5. The hidden trap in nursing home and aged care facility fees. They call it paperwork. But hidden inside those stacks of forms at nursing homes is a financial landmine that could blow up your life savings. And the worst part? They count on you not reading it. Let me tell you about Jean, a 76-year-old woman in Springfield, Missouri. Her older sister, Eileen, had a stroke. She needed full-time care. Jean wasn't her guardian, wasn't on her bank accounts, just a caring sister. So when Eileen was moved into a nursing home, the facility staff handed Jean a clipboard and said, "This is just standard admission paperwork. Just sign here so we can process everything." Jean trusted them. She signed. 8 months later, she got a letter in the mail. A cold, legal-looking envelope demanding $18,240 in unpaid care costs. She was stunned. "I don't understand," she said. "I'm not the patient. I'm not responsible for her finances." But buried in that stack of papers was a guarantor clause. She had unknowingly agreed to pay if Eileen couldn't. This isn't a rare case. This is happening every day across America. Nursing homes often bury liability language inside multi-page forms. They don't say, "Hey, you're about to sign a contract making you financially responsible for tens of thousands of dollars." Instead, they say, "It's just routine paperwork. You're just helping your loved one move in." But the law is clear on one thing. Once you sign a financial responsibility clause, you become liable, even if you didn't read it. Let me make this clear. You are not selfish for reading every word. You are not rude for asking questions. You are not being difficult for saying, "I'm going to take this home and have a lawyer look it over." You're being smart. You're being strong. Because no one else is going to protect your wallet. except you. In Orlando, Florida, I met Mr. Alvin Pierce, a retired Air Force veteran. He helped move his wife into a care facility after her dementia worsened. He was heartbroken, tired, overwhelmed. The intake coordinator said, "Just sign here so we can get started. You're not agreeing to anything major." So he did. He didn't realize he'd agreed to a joint payment clause. When Medicaid was delayed for 3 months, the facility billed him directly for over $9,000. They sent his account to collections. His credit dropped. He nearly lost his condo. All because he signed something he didn't understand. Here's what you need to know, and what no one at the nursing home will tell you. Stop sign you have no legal obligation to pay for someone else's care unless you sign a document that makes you responsible. Stop sign you are allowed to take any paperwork home. You don't have to sign anything on the spot, no matter how urgent they make it sound. Stop sign you can and should call a legal aid service before signing any care admission forms. Stop sign you must ask directly, "Am I personally liable for any of this?" If they hesitate, deflect, or avoid the question, that's your red flag. You've spent your life helping others. But helping doesn't mean sacrificing your retirement. Helping doesn't mean putting your own stability at risk. You are allowed to say, "I love my sister, but I will not sign anything that could cost me my future." That's not being cold. That's being clear. That's being courageous. This system is built on confusion. It thrives when good-hearted people feel too guilty to ask questions. But the truth is, your signature is powerful. Use it wisely. Guard it fiercely. Because once you put it on paper, there's no going back. If you're in this situation now, don't panic. Pushpin, call a legal aid center. Pushpin, ask for a copy of everything you signed. Pushpin, push back because you're allowed to. And most importantly, share this message. Because too many seniors are quietly suffering, paying bills they never owed. Let's break the silence. Let's stay informed. Let's stay free. Part 6. The silent thieves in your bank account, utility, and subscription scams. Let me ask you something. When was the last time you checked your bank statement? Line by line. I don't mean glancing at the total. I mean actually sitting down, reading each charge, and asking yourself, what is this $11.99 charge every month? Why am I paying $7.49 to some company I've never heard of? If you haven't done that in a while, don't feel bad. You're not alone. And that's exactly why you're being targeted. Meet Barbara, 72, a retired schoolteacher from Des Moines, Iowa. Every month, she paid her bills on time like clockwork. Gas, water, internet, all automatic. But one day, her granddaughter came to visit and offered to help her with online banking. They sat at the kitchen table, and what they discovered shocked them both. Barbara was paying $14.99 per month for a senior health news app she never downloaded. $8.99 per month to a streaming service she didn't even own a device for. $21.95 every quarter for a magazine subscription that hadn't sent a physical copy in 2 years. Over 18 months, Barbara had lost more than $600, all in tiny silent deductions. I never noticed, she said. They were so small. I thought they were just part of my utilities. But they weren't. They were subscription scams, designed just for people like her. This is called subscription creep. It's when companies, white heavy checkmark, offer a free trial that auto-renews without notice. White heavy checkmark use confusing names on billing statements so you can't identify them. White heavy checkmark make cancellation nearly impossible. With long phone trees, emails that bounce, or demands to cancel by mail, these companies aren't just unethical. They're predators. They know seniors are less likely to challenge small charges. They know you were raised to trust a bill when you see one. They exploit your decency. Let me tell you about Ronald, 78, a veteran living in Albuquerque, New Mexico. One day, his electricity bill shot up by $90. When his daughter looked closer, she realized he'd been slammed, meaning a third-party utility provider had switched him without his permission. They offered lower rates, but after the introductory price, they spiked it sky-high. Ronald never authorized the switch. He didn't even understand how it happened. And when they tried to cancel, they said he'd signed up through a phone call 9 months earlier. There was no recording, no paperwork, nothing, just a monthly bill draining his fixed income. Here's the truth. You are being targeted because you're polite, because you don't make a fuss, because you assume if something's being charged to your account, it must be real. But listen to me carefully. A real company doesn't hide their charges. A fair company doesn't make you fight to cancel. A trustworthy company doesn't trick you into paying for something you didn't ask for. You have the right to white heavy checkmark call your bank and ask them to block future charges. White heavy checkmark dispute payments you didn't approve. White heavy checkmark cancel subscriptions, even if the company makes it hard. You also have the right to feel safe checking your own statements. So here's what I recommend. 1. Get a family member or friend to help review your accounts. Even if it's just once every few months. A second pair of eyes can catch things you missed. 2. Print out your last 3 months of bank or credit card statements. Use a yellow highlighter. Go through each line. If you don't recognize a charge, circle it. 3. Call the number listed next to the charge. Ask, what is this for? When did I sign up? What's your cancellation process? If they don't answer you clearly, that's your red flag. And if you feel embarrassed, don't. Barbara, Ronald, and thousands more, they didn't do anything wrong. They were just trusting in a system that has stopped playing fair. This isn't about shame. It's about awareness. And it's about taking back control. Every dollar matters, especially now. So don't let these silent charges bleed your retirement dry. Because when you say, no more, I cancel, I didn't sign up for this, you're not just fighting for your money. You're fighting for your independence. You've worked hard for your peace. Now it's time to protect it. Part 7. Rest in peace or pay in pieces. The hidden dangers of prepaid funeral plans. We don't like to talk about it, death, but scammers do. And they talk about it a lot because they know that where there's emotion, there's opportunity. And when it comes to prepaid funeral plans, the opportunity is you. Across the U.S., more and more seniors are being told, plan ahead so your children don't have to. Lock in today's prices before inflation skyrockets. Protect your family from the burden. Sounds responsible, doesn't it? But behind these comforting phrases is a trap. Let me introduce you to Henry, a 79-year-old retired machinist from Cleveland, Ohio. After losing his wife, Henry wanted to make sure his kids didn't have to go through what he did, making hard decisions in the middle of grief. He sat down with a funeral home rep who offered him a prepaid plan, a complete package, casket, flowers, ceremony, even transportation, for $8,500, locked in at today's rate. Henry thought it was a good deal. He paid in full. But here's what happened when he passed away 2 years later. The funeral home had changed ownership. The new owners wouldn't honor the old agreement. The family had to pay again, almost $11,000, and were told, we're not responsible for what the previous owners promised. Henry thought he was sparing his children pain. Instead, he left them a financial disaster. Here's the cold truth. Prepaid funeral plans are not always guaranteed, and many are not regulated by federal law. That means, crossmark your money could be misused or lost. Crossmark if the funeral home closes, you could be left with nothing. Crossmark the terms can be full of fine print, hidden fees, and vague service clauses. Let's talk about Rosa, 83, from San Antonio, Texas. She paid $6,000 into a funeral trust offered by a man who claimed to be part of a Christian burial ministry. When Rosa passed, her daughter contacted the number listed on the contract and got a disconnected line. Turns out the ministry was a fraud. The trust account was never funded, and Rosa's family had to start from scratch, emotionally and financially. No one ever got arrested. No one refunded the money, because it wasn't illegal, just unethical. So let me make this crystal clear. A funeral plan is not a gift unless it's airtight, transferable, and insured. And most of the ones being sold to seniors today, they're anything but that. But you're not powerless. You still have time to protect your family the right way. Here's how. 1. Never sign a prepaid plan without reading the fine print. Have a lawyer or trusted family member look it over. If they rush you, walk away. 2. Choose a plan that's funded through a state-regulated funeral trust or insurance policy. This way, your money is protected even if the funeral home closes. 3. Make sure the contract includes exact itemization. Ask, can this be transferred to another provider? What happens if I move states? Are there cancellation or refund options? If they hesitate, that's a red flag. 4. Consider alternatives. You can set up a payable on death pod bank account, naming a trusted family member as the beneficiary. When the time comes, they can access the money without probate and use it as needed. This gives your family flexibility without locking you into a specific business. You've worked too hard all your life to leave behind confusion, legal mess, or debt. You deserve to leave behind clarity, dignity, peace, and that only happens when you ask the tough questions now. Don't let fear or pressure rush you into decisions meant for profit, not protection. To all the seniors watching, you're not being morbid by planning ahead. You're being wise. But wisdom also means knowing who you can trust. Don't give your final wishes to a stranger with a contract and a smile. Give them to someone who has your back. This isn't just about money. It's about legacy, about leaving behind the right message. I cared enough to prepare, and I cared enough to do it right. Stay smart, stay aware, and protect what matters most, even after you're gone. Part 8. Love you to death. The hidden world of senior romance scams. Love. It heals. It inspires. It gives us something to hold on to even in our later years. But for thousands of seniors across America, love has become a weapon, and romance scammers are pulling the trigger. In this digital age, loneliness can make you vulnerable, but loneliness shouldn't make you a target. And yet, every year, over 70,000 older Americans fall victim to romance scams, losing more than $1.3 billion combined. Let that sink in. This isn't a few harmless messages. This is emotional warfare. Meet Patricia, 72, from Boise, Idaho. She lost her husband of 40 years to cancer. A few months later, a man named James messaged her on Facebook. He was kind, gentle, said all the right things, claimed to be a retired engineer, widowed too, living just a few states away. They talked daily, then video chatted, though his face was always blurry or the camera wasn't working. After 2 months, he told her he loved her, said he wanted to visit. But there was a problem. My business deal in Dubai has gone sideways. Can you help me with $2,000? I'll pay you back. Patricia wired the money, then more. $2,000 turned into $10,000. Then $25,000. By the time her daughter found out, Patricia had taken out a loan against her home. James never existed. The photos were stolen from a real man in Texas who'd never heard of her. And the scammer was somewhere overseas, targeting dozens of women at once. You might think, that could never be me. I'm too smart for that. But let me be clear, these scammers are professionals. They study your likes, your grief, your faith, your political views, anything to build false intimacy. They don't rush. They invest time because you're worth it, not in love, but in dollars. Now let's talk about Ronald, 78, a retired Air Force veteran in Orlando, Florida. He met Svetlana through a dating app for seniors. She was beautiful, in her 50s, said she wanted to move to the US and start a life with someone mature and stable. After a few weeks, she said she needed help with visa fees, then a plane ticket, then her mother's hospital bills. Ronald sent over $18,000 across 6 months. She never arrived, because she never existed. The photos were AI-generated. The conversations, copied and pasted from a playbook used on thousands of men just like Ronald. These aren't just scams. They're emotional ambushes. They rob you of your heart before they rob your bank account. But this doesn't mean you should stop looking for companionship. Everyone deserves connection. What it means is, you must guard your heart and your wallet. Here's how. How to protect yourself from romance scams. 1. Be skeptical of love that moves fast. If someone you've never met says, "I love you," in a weak red flag. True connection takes time, not text messages. 2. Watch for excuses. Scammers always have reasons they can't meet in person, video chat clearly, or talk by phone. Military deployment, overseas business, broken webcam, all lies. Don't fall for it. 3. Never send money no matter the sob story. Not for plane tickets, not for sick relatives, not even just until next week. If you haven't met them face to face, don't give them a dime. 4. Talk to someone you trust. A scam thrives in isolation. Bring in a friend, a child, or a neighbor. Let them read the messages. If something feels off, trust that feeling. You've lived through decades of ups and downs. You've seen love, lost it, maybe found it again. You know what real connection feels like. So when something feels too perfect, too fast, or too scripted, stop, think. As to all seniors watching, you are not desperate. You are not naive. You are not too old to love again. But you are too wise to be fooled. Real love shows up. It doesn't ask for wire transfers. It doesn't hide behind excuses. And it sure doesn't vanish when the money runs out. As Senior Savvy, we believe in love. But we also believe in protecting your dignity, your finances, and your heart. Stay sharp. Stay strong. And remember, the right person won't ask you to prove your love with a payment. If you've made it this far, thank you. Thank you for choosing to stay informed. Thank you for choosing to protect yourself and maybe someone you love. Every scam we expose, every truth we share, it's not just information. It's a lifeline. It's a shield. It's power. But we can't do this alone. There are millions of seniors out there, living with good hearts, big hopes, and no idea how dangerous the internet has become. Let's change that. So if this video helped you, please hit the like button. It tells YouTube that this content matters, that seniors matter. Leave a comment. Tell us your story, your questions, or just say hello. We read every single one. And most importantly, subscribe to Senior Savvy. Because this isn't just a channel. It's a movement. It's a growing community of older adults who are saying, we will not be silent targets. We will stand together. We will stay smart. And we will look out for each other. And if you know someone, a parent, a friend, a neighbor who could benefit from this, share this video with them. Send it in a message. Post it in a group. You might save them thousands of dollars or a broken heart. At Senior Savvy, we believe it's never too late to be wise and never too early to be prepared. So until next time, stay safe, stay strong, and stay savvy. We'll see you soon.